Welcome back to Business 201 online with Professor Joe Lane, as we're kind of definitely doing a different venue here. But I'm enjoying, I just kind of picture seeing y'all sitting out in the room, and so I just go with that. And like I say, I'm here in room 363 doing this, so it's working out really well. Our chapter that we're getting to now, remember I told you as we finished chapter 12 that chapter 13 and 15 are going to be test number 4, the final. So we're skipping chapter 13 and we're going to be doing chapter 14. So what we've really done or will have done here is chapter 10b, the last half of the chapter 10 in the text. Chapter 11, which was on pricing. Chapter 10b was retailing. Chapter 12, which was on communication venue, promotion mix, and then chapter 14, which is on specifically sales and trade promotions. But I thought what I might do, before I get into this last chapter, let me look back. I told you I wanted to do no's and be familiar with and everything. Look back and see if there's anything that I have maybe missed talking to you about in the retail strategy and retailing. I think we covered that quite well. Pricing strategies. We talked about what pricing was. We talked about the external influences on pricing. And one of the things we were talking about, we were talking about government, and I talked about a couple of the laws, and you have those laws in, as a part of your handout. I took a copied that out of a page. And we were talking about demand-based pricing and cost-based pricing and that sort of thing. And one thing that I noticed here, I think I mentioned fixed and variable cost, but I may not have said much about fixed and variable cost. So fixed cost are costs that you're going to have in your company. Let's say you're trying to determine how to cost your product, how much your product costs, and then you're going to add a profit to it, cost-based pricing. Well, fixed costs are costs that you're going to have whether you produce anything or not. You're going to have to pay the insurance, you're going to have to pay the note on the building, you're going to have to pay employees, unless you lay employees off. Those would all be fixed costs. Variable costs are costs that would change depending on your production. So if you're producing 100 units or 500 units, the amount of material that you would use to do those sort of things, some additional requirements that you might have to have materials available, things that would cost you more as you produce more product are variable costs. So I want to make sure we understood fixed and variable costs, just as a be familiar with, of course. The rest of that, I think we did. What we were talking down here about marketing applications, strategic marketing applications, kind of towards the end of chapter 11. And remember I talked about no haggle pricing, I talked about psychological pricing. A lot of times it'll be $9.99 instead of $10 or something like this. Another type of pricing that I think I wanted to mention to you is what they call customary pricing or stable pricing. We as customers like customary or stable pricing unless we get a deal. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of convenience goods, Doritos, M&Ms, if you go buy a package of M&Ms, you buy Doritos, there are certain products where the pricing is relatively stable, and that's kind of an advantage for that company. Keeping their price stable makes it feel good as far as the customer is concerned. Okay. Chapter 12 was the integrated marketing communications. Had a lot of no's at the first of that chapter, and we went over those. We talked about some of the different, usually the company is going to use a mix of different types of promotions, and it says, what type of promotion mix they're going to use, or communication mix or objective, depends on what they want to accomplish. That's where we talked about increased demand, differentiate a product. We went into push and pull strategy. We did a good job, I think, with that. Then we talked about, advertising over a $200 billion industry. We talked about product advertising, institutional advertising. I think we did fine there. Just kind of looking through here. We talked about advertising appeals, emotional, fear, humor. Probably one that I forgot about were fantasy appeals. Sometimes, that dream vacation, that dream place, almost like it would be a fantasy to go there. So sometimes they'll use a fantasy to put in a way, Disney does that. When you go to, when you go to their park, one of their theme parks, you just kind of walk into a fantasy situation. Media selection, we did well there. Okay, let's get into chapter 14, which is the last chapter. Again, 10b, 11, 12, 14. Those 4 chapters make up Unit 3, Test number 3. Now, Chapter 14 is on something we've already talked about, and that is, we were talking about the production mix, the communication venue. Okay, sales and trade promotion. That's what this chapter is about. Now, let's review for just a moment. Remember that line? We want to buy something, but we can't quite cross that line. I need that new outfit. I need those new pair of shoes. I need that new TV. I need that new car. But we can't quite make ourselves do it. Marketers know that. So they're going to do things to entice us, give us incentives to make us take that step. So that's what this whole chapter, well, most of this chapter is about. And then there's a couple of things at the very end of it. Okay, here's something that's if I were to ask you, what do companies spend the most on? Advertising, personal sales, sales and trade promotion, and publicity and public relations. The answer I normally get is advertising. And here's what I'd say. You're right, used to be. That used to be the case. But companies now budget more of their promotion dollars in sales and trade promotion than they do even advertising. Advertising, and he gives us a few reasons here. Why? Sales and trade promotion have immediate, they can drive sales immediately. Advertising doesn't, but sales and trade promotions, you're getting somebody to buy immediately. That's a good thing. We see so much advertising, we're inundated with it, we kind of let it just kind of flow away. It just doesn't have the impact it used to have that sales and trade promotion has. So more of the marketing dollar, more of the promotion dollar in sales and trade promotion now than in advertising. Firms have shifted more of their promotion communications budgets from advertising to sales and trade promotion. I'd be familiar with that. All right, what is sales promotion? We've defined it. We know what it is. But in your handout, I gave you some examples of sales promotion. And I'd like for you to know some examples of sales promotion. So I'm probably going to ask you to list some. Now here's what you can do. We have some right here. Let's look at some things this is the things that entice us to step over the line. Some way to stimulate us to actually make the purchase. Coupons. Coupons are a way to get prices off, money off of product. So sometimes coupons can do that. Premiums, where you get some type of a premium, something that you get if you buy that particular product. Contest and sweepstakes. Sometimes you're entered into a certain contest, you're entered into certain sweepstakes. Bonus packs. Sometimes they'll package 2 things together and do it at maybe a discount or something. This will kind of entice us to do it. Sampling. Sampling is a way that they will entice us. Let us taste the product or sample the gymnasium or whatever it is, the workout venue to get us to do that. Price offs, reducing the price, refunds, rebates. So I've listed a number of sales promotion things for you here. I would be familiar with some of these sales promotions. No, take that back. I would know some sales promotion type things. Now here's the good news. The good news is, do I have to use the ones here in the book or on your study guide for this particular chapter? You don't have to. There are other things that you can use, as long as they really are. But I want you to know some sales promotions that companies use. Okay. Then he talks a little bit about in-store promotions. When you walk into a store, do they do advertising in the store? Sure. Convenience stores may have displays set up for different things. I know a lot of times I walk into a convenience store and they may have a display set up for beer. I think I went in one time, they had this canoe full of beer and stuff like that. But in Christmas time especially, or different seasonal, but just throughout the year, they do things to promote their product, in-store promotions of products all over the store. There's something that I put down here for you, the 66 2/3 rule. What does that mean? What that really means is statistics and studies have shown that 2/3 of the stuff that people buy when they go into a store are things that they had not planned on buying when they first went in. You can make a list. I want this and this and this and this. And you walk in with that list, and usually you're going to add significantly more to that once you go in. You're going to walk out of that store with twice what you had intended to walk out with. Now, why is that? Well, it can be a number of reasons, but one of the things that can help with that is in-store promotions. Oh my gosh, I didn't need that right now, but that's such a good deal. Well, I hadn't seen that in a while. That really would be helpful for me. So things like that. Those are in-store promotions. All right. Now, mainly what we're talking about most of the time through this marketing is we're talking about sales promotions. Remember, the difference between sales and trade promotion is that sales promotions are done to consumers. Trade promotions is where businesses like manufacturers, they promote to wholesalers, agent brokers, retailers. We talked about that push and pull strategy. So we've looked at, I wanted you to be familiar with the fact that more of the communication promotion budget has moved from advertising to sales promotion. And I want you to know some of the different types of sales promotion things that businesses do to have us step over the line. In-store promotions, I want us to be kind of familiar with what in-store promotions are, kind of be familiar with the 2/3 rule, that most of the times we'll end up with a lot more things than what we intended to buy when we first came into that store. The next thing, if you're looking at our study guide, all right, let's talk a little bit about trade promotions. Now, trade promotions, that's when a business is promoting to other businesses, agent brokers, wholesalers, and retailers to try to get them to carry their product. Here's what he says. He says they do this kind of promotion to help push through the channel. Remember that push strategy? Well, the very reason they do trade promotions, companies do trade promotions, is to push their product through the channel. And what these companies like to do, they like to build up relationships with these agent brokers, wholesalers, and retailers. Get to know them, and those people get to know their products. You promote to them, you build a relationship with them as a company, and in doing that, that gives you a good chance of having them to carry your goods and services. So when that consumer walks in, they see that product and say, hey, I think I want to buy that. So that's kind of the idea behind trade promotions. Now, I did something really tricky to you. To finish up chapter 14, you're going to have to go back to my chapter 12 notes. Sorry about that. If you look at chapter 12 notes, that was a chapter on communication mix, promotion mix, and that sort of thing. At the very end of my chapter 12 notes, he talks about two things that I want to mention for just a minute as we finish up chapter 14. One thing is sponsorships. Businesses sponsor things as a way of promoting. Now, if I ask you, can you think of any things that businesses sponsor that is a way to help them promote themselves or promote their product? A company paying a fee to an event, person, or organization in exchange for a direct association with that event, person, or organization. Hey, you know that big old building down in New Orleans, that big old round building, or kind of a dome-shaped building with the New Orleans Saints play? What's the name of that building? That's the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Do you think Mercedes-Benz paid a little money to sponsor that dome? Well, the answer is yes. If you've ever been, or when you've gone to the Superdome, they did a great job, matter of fact, of redoing the lighting as far as the Superdome in New Orleans is concerned. Do you ever see that Mercedes emblem anywhere around? I'll say, you certainly do. So I mean, how many people go through that venue in a year when we're not having coronavirus situations? Probably several millions of people are in and around and through that thing. And there's those Mercedes-Benz things. The U.S. Open tennis tournament, my daughter and I have enjoyed kind of a father-daughter outing. About every other year we go up to New York for the U.S. Open. The Mercedes is a huge sponsor of the U.S. Open. So when you're in there in the authorized tennis center and you're looking down at the court, you think you see some Mercedes-Benz signs? Sure enough. When you're walking into the Billie Jean King's tennis center, do you think there may be a big area where Mercedes are set up where people can come and look at them and everything? Sure enough. So that's the idea of sponsorship. NASCAR. Ever seen those vehicles? Advertising. The suits that the drivers wear? Advertising. That thing over in Bossier City, the CenturyLink Center, and you get the idea. So I want you to be familiar with what sponsorships are. Sponsorships are simply where a company pays a fee to an event, to a person, to an organization, so that they can, in essence, be a sponsor of that particular thing. All right. Excuse me. A lot of money involved in that. The last thing, public relations. He just throws out a little bit in chapter 14 about public relations. The public relations department, we've really already talked about them, and we really know what they do. So at the bottom of my chapter 12 notes, but for chapter 14, as you can see that I put, Public Relations Department for overseeing publicity communications with employees, stockholders, public interest groups, government, and society. They are very interested in making sure that IMC, Integrated Marketing Communication, the one voice takes place. Excuse me, and they're making sure that employees and stockholders and the public have the right image, that their company has the right image or the right perception with them. So public relations, pretty important in the world of business. That pretty much takes care of the chapters that we're going to be doing in test number 3. So 10B, 11, 12, and we just finished chapter 14, and we've talked about the knows and the be familiar with. So that leads us through and into test number 3. I'll be coming back, and by the time we get test number 3 done, we will have done these video sessions for test number 4, and which is only going to be chapters 13 and 15. So as you know, the way I'm supposed to do this is I finish up a chapter, and we have finished up a chapter, and we have finished up this segment of chapters. We have finished up this segment of study notes leading into test number 3. So I will do my hand clap, and I will say we'll see you at test number 3. Thank you.